Okay, it is now 5 p.m., so I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll take a roll call first.
Elfon.
Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
Pritchard.
Here.
Teevan.
Here.
Melhouse.
Here. Welcome to our meeting tonight. In keeping with the National Character Counts philosophy, the Boone Community School Board promotes and models the principle of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting this meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a manner consistent with these principles. Over the last 18 months' time, COVID-19 has dominated our country, our state, our county, our city, and our school district. What started out as purely a medical fight to control and conquer a viral infection has turned into a prolonged political battle that has caused division in our country, our state, our county, city, and our school district. We started the battle in Boone by holding classes online for the fourth quarter of 2019-2020. Over the summer of 2020, the school administration, faculty, and staff worked overtime to get our students back into the classroom. Our students happily returned to the classrooms with their masks on, plastic barriers, frequent hand washing, social distancing. While many school districts had their students attending classes every other day or totally remote, our student body and staff wore their masks with little difficulty. At the start of June, it appeared that the country had gotten control over the COVID-19 and life was returning to normal. Then came the Delta variant. This variant has changed the fight against COVID. What worked for the original COVID strain isn't working all the time for Delta strain. Tonight, we are here to discuss how to best protect all of our students and staff in the months ahead. The fight against COVID Delta is ever changing. What is decided tonight may need to be readdressed in 3 to 4 days, 3 to 4 weeks, or 3 to 4 months, depending upon what happens from a medical standpoint and legal standpoint. With that being said, this is how our meeting will proceed. As with all board meetings, we will first start with listening comments from the audience. Each person will be asked to step to the microphone in front so we can all hear you. You will be called to the microphone by Mr. Lewis. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes. Mr. Lewis will be keeping track. At the end of 2 minutes, we ask that you please summarize your comments and step aside from the microphone. We ask that each person will only be allowed to speak 1 time so that everyone can be heard. We ask everyone respect each other's comments by not creating excess noise during or after the comments. The board will listen but will not be responding to any of the comments. If you have nothing new to add, you may just state your name and whether you're in favor or opposed to mandatory masks. After all have commented or 30 minutes have elapsed, whichever is first. The public, sorry, dead battery. After 30 minutes or all have commented, whichever comes first, the public comment time will be discontinued and the board will move on to the next item on the agenda. At this time, we ask that the audience remain quiet and listen as administration and the board discuss the issue. Should there be any outbreaks or outbursts during the meeting will go into recess for 5 minutes time for everyone to calm down. We will then reconvene for further discussion amongst the board members. Thank you in advance for your cooperation this evening. Remember, we are all adults. We must set good examples by listening to our friends and neighbors as they explain their side of the debate. Listening will help all of us understand each other and come to an acceptable conclusion. Mr. Lewis, could you please call the first person to the mic?
Nathan Driesen.
Thank you. Something happened this summer. The pandemic came back, especially with the surge in the new Delta variant, COVID-19. It has proved to be more transmissible, more deadly, and particularly more aggressive in young children who do not yet have the benefit of the vaccine, though it may hopefully change soon. In light of this unsettling news, we found out that all mitigation strategies had effectively been abandoned by the Boone schools due to what I can only assume is unpopularity. We went from doing everything to doing nothing. Not only that, but the open hostility, not towards students specifically, but in the overall feelings of mask wearing and other mitigation techniques, seem to be rising. As a father, my number one concern when I send my children to school is, will they be protected? Will the school do all it can to ensure that will happen? The state government has decided to gamble with my children's health, and now the local government is teetering on the edge doing the same. I am not asking the board to break the law, but we cannot pretend that everything is back to normal. I am asking that the board take an honest look at the duties and responsibilities they have to uphold the safety and well-being of the children in their charge. I don't care what your politics are on this issue. I see it as protecting the wellness of my child and the wellness of every child. I have learned that being responsible is seldom easy and almost never fun. It's hard, but responsibility must persist. Failure to understand how the science works is not an excuse to then gamble with the health and safety of our children, of my children. I am begging for good citizenry and responsibility to be reaffirmed. The loss of one child to this virus is an absolute failure if we didn't even do the least we could do. Please bring back our mask policy.
Time's up.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lewis, we have the next person.
Scott Peasley. That was close. Good evening. My name is Scott Peasley, and I am a part-time employee of Boone Schools. I know board members were sent links to studies regarding the effectiveness of cloth masks, and I assume others might highlight those studies tonight. Anecdotally, last fall, members of my family contracted COVID-19. That exposure began with a masked member of my family who interacting with a masked person at school. The president of the school board recently shared with the school staff that one of his family members contracted COVID-19 after taking part in a card club where all people were masked. The cloth masks that people are wearing are simply not effective. So Boone County has a population of over 26,000 people. Today, in Boone County, there are 2 people hospitalized related to COVID-19. The highest level since January, 5. Since this summer, 2 is the highest daily total. Total number of deaths related to COVID-19 in Boone County is 36. Since March of this year, there have been 6 deaths in Boone County related to COVID-19. Regionally, including 23 counties in central and south central Iowa, the hospital number today is 190 people. Of those, 8 are under the age of 19. That includes Blank Children's Hospital. Story County, there are 8 people hospitalized, 0 under the age of 18. Iowa's statewide death total, 92% of the total deaths in Iowa were people 60 years and older. 0.05% of the total deaths in Iowa were kids under the age of 17. Just over 0.2% of the total deaths were people 18 to 29%. Have you gone to each school to determine how many staff and students are currently choosing to wear a mask? I suggest you take the time to observe that and refrain from making disparaging comments to staff. Time's up.
Like the comments. Time's up, sir.
I'm summarizing. Like the comments that were made by our school board president.
Sir, I'd like to step away from the microphone.
Thank you.
Please, your 2
I
minutes
will.
are over.
Thank you. Todd Rasmussen.
Could you do something about the feedback from the mic? I'll contact her.
Our tech guy's in the back, I'll ask him.
Good evening. I'm Todd Rasmussen, and I'm here to speak out against a mask mandate. Have you taken into consideration kids that have hearing issues, speech issues, skin condition, and a host of other issues that makes masks horrified for many kids in school setting? The federal judge did put a temporary restraining order on our law. He now has 2 options, either uphold it or set it aside. And also, if he does uphold it, I know that Iowa will bring out a real tough campaign against it, which, like Florida, we should win. So are you going to put our kids through the problem of putting a mask on for a couple weeks and then end up having to take him back off. I mean, I've got a son that is a lazy eye and has a very hard time breathing through a mask and also looking and studying because it fogs up his glasses. So I'm really looking at you to oppose putting a mask mandate on our students and let the parents choose what is right for our kids, whether to have a mask or not masked. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. Next.
Brian Kraft.
I'm here today to talk about what science says about wearing masks. Unfortunately, this issue has become a political one because the unelected bureaucrats at places like the CDC and WHO have not learned the lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic. They continue to insist that children must wear masks in the classroom without scientific evidence. We know that children are at an extremely low risk of suffering adverse consequences even if they do get COVID-19. The CDC's own data shows that if you're less than 20 years old, you have a 99.997% survival rate. To put this number into perspective, a young child has a higher risk of dying from seasonal influenza than from COVID-19. Yet we have never required the masking of children due to influenza season. Sorry about that. There are also significant psychological risks. We have seen a dramatic increase in anxiety, depression, suicidal thought, and learning disorders directly due to the mandated mask wearing. We also know that wearing a mask inhibits the bonding between a child and teacher. We have been told over and over again that we must follow the science. But where is the science behind the mask mandate for children? Earlier today, I sent the board an email which contained these links. 5 studies that show the effectiveness of masks are inconclusive. 4 studies that show schools without masks have not fared worse. And 5 studies that show that masks can be detrimental to development. I realize this is a very divisive issue, but I think you can boil it down to one simple question. Do non-medical grade masks work? That's what these kids wear, and that's what the staff will wear. The question isn't about how do we keep our schools safe, because if masks don't work, then masking will only harm. Thank you.
Aiden Kraft.
Hello, I'm Aiden. I'm a senior here at Boone. That's exactly the sound of a classroom filled with students with masks on, completely silent. A mask puts a muzzle on the entire body of Boone students. As a liberal arts institution, teachers and administrators have the goal of crafting well-rounded individuals. Shouldn't well-rounded individuals be able to make a choice for themselves? Masks restrict every child's ability to learn, whether that be fogging glasses or just fiddling with it, whatever it may be. As a student, I know firsthand that absolutely nobody cares if you wear a mask. If you wear a mask, good for you. No one cares. I have not seen a single case of bullying or whatever from wearing a mask, not even being the slightest made fun of. It's totally personal choice. Cool with everybody. Masks disable the very important ability to interact with one another in the educational setting. Thanks.
Reggie Grave.
Some of the other speakers have hit on a lot of my key points, but I think what this boils down to for me is that I'm really interested in hearing from the board tonight on what the hell your vote ended up. And I hope you're really transparent about the feedback that you got. Because what I know is that in the people that I hang out with in this community, and it's a big group, everybody is against a mask mandate. I mean, I see very few people that support it. And you know, let me give you an example too. If you go to Fairway or Walmart in town, I've actually counted, less than 10% of people have masks in these public establishments, right? And Fairway and you know, Walmart are a good example. That's a melting pot. Everybody's going there, regardless of whatever your situation is. You've got to go there. You've got to get your goods. So you know, if you're going to come out tonight and say that 60% of the people in the community support a mask mandate, I'm going to have a really hard time believing that. I really am. And you know what? If that's true, then these people that I'm seeing all over town without masks on are just hypocrites, which is worse yet. So what, for me, this really boils down to is: are you going to support your constituents' wishes as a school board, or are you going to take it into your own hands and make the decision that you see fit, right? Because you're elected officials, let's be honest. And so at the end of the day, are you listening to your constituents, or are you not? Do you know better than us, or do you not? To me, this boils down to ideology versus pragmatism. You know, the left that supports these masks and just wants to keep pushing us and pushing us and pushing us and shoving all this down our throat. It's all ideology. None of it's pragmatic. We've talked about the efficacy of masks. We don't believe it. And not only that, the kids, I mean, have you been to any school event? They don't cover their noses. They're touching their mouths all the time. If you're concerned about the kids that have issues, health issues, that are more susceptible to this, I totally sympathize with that. Those parents need to put N95 masks on those kids or make other arrangements. Don't mask all the other kids in this community and in this school who absolutely hate wearing them. I know it sounds like it's easy to wear a mask, but it's not. You know, the kids hate it, period. So do the parents.
Diogo Cordero.
Hi, my name is Diogo. I was not planning to speak tonight, but I decided when I was asked at the door. I'm a dad of 3 young, beautiful kids, and I care about their health every single day when I send my oldest daughter to school. Unfortunately, in our state and at the federal level, our leaders haven't done a good job explaining the facts and the science behind masks and behind vaccines. And this issue has become a very political issue, which is very sad. I wanted to humanize this issue a little bit and ask all of you guys, when do we stop believe our doctors? Every single doctor in this country, every single pediatrician in this country tell us that mask indoor is effective. If your kid has fever, if your kid is coughing, you're gonna call your pediatrician and you're gonna believe your pediatrician say. I just want us to listen to science, believe the facts, put a mask indoor for the kids. I don't like wearing masks, I don't, but if we do it for a period of time, we're gonna get out of this safe and well, and we don't have anybody's gonna die. And we can be over for this. Put a mask indoor on kids, let's all be safe and humanize this issue and listen to both sides of the issue. Thanks.
Clint Jenkins.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Clint Jenkins, resident of Boone for nearly 20 years, active in our community. First of all, Dr. Milhouse, you hit the nail right on the head. This is a political issue. We're not talking about safety anymore. It's a political issue. That is up and down the spectrum, whether it's locally or at the federal level. This is a political issue. I hope that we take into account the long-term mental health effects that this has on our children. I hope tonight that you all vote in favor of not masking our children again. Not only because of the mental health, but also to the fact that we're going to ask our teachers and our administration in these buildings to police this. And we're going to lose total focus on the educational system and teaching our kids. It will become a distraction, just like it was when we returned to school last year. My next question, what is our metric to put the mask on the kids, if that's the sole intent of the board tonight? What is the metric to determine that? What's the metric to determine when we take them off? I would appreciate if you can set that forth for us as well tonight and tell us what that metric is to mask our kids. God forbid you do. But again, what's the metric to take them off? Because this crap has got to end at some point. And I hope that our students and our faculty take the civil discourse if you do mandate this evening. I hope they take the civil discourse and push back, because that's the problem in our country today, that nobody will take civil discourse and push back on this stuff. They continue to push and push and push everybody to the brink. I understand everybody has health issues. You have a personal choice to wear a mask. That's fine. Don't mandate a choice or mandate something on people that do not want to do that. Thank you for your time this evening.
Jason Nystrom.
I don't need the microphone. I'm just here to tell you that I oppose mask mandate.
Excuse me, can you step up and mic for other people? This is also being taped, being presented for live. Thank you.
I oppose the mask mandate. It's not right. It's a personal choice. I echo every one of these individuals' comments that came up here, and what are you going to do with athletics too? That's something. I know the athletic director's sitting here. Are you going to expect, if you do this in our school district, but other school districts don't do it, you're going to have our athletes out there wearing masks on the indoor courts, wrestling, whatever it is. I mean, that's just one small example of all this, and it affects the kids. It's not right. It should be a family decision, personal decision. I just hope you make the right decision tonight.
Amy Landis.
Good evening, Amy Landis here. I'm also here to oppose the mask mandate. I wholeheartedly agree with everybody here that has opposed it as well and all the points that they have made. Just like the athletic situation that Jason brought up, I have that same question because there's a lot of schools that are coming in and out. You're going to have cross-contamination. There's more impact to this than what you think there is just locally. I also look around at some of the other schools. Nevada had a vote yesterday. They went against it. Ogden's not even going to have a vote because they know there's going to be issues. I think we need to look at our community and the people that we're servicing here, and like Reggie Gravy mentioned, the majority of us are not in favor of this. Kids in today's society, they're struggling with communication, and this is a barrier for them. They're missing out on those facial expressions. There's kids with disabilities that rely on reading lips, and with having a mask there, you're taking away from them. I guess my feeling is it's the parents' choice, and as I have 2 children in the school system, my choice is that there should not be a mask mandate, and it should be my personal opinion on if I feel they should wear one or not. Thank you.
Jesse Howard. Megan Erickson.
Hi, I'm opposed to the mask mandate. I agree with everybody here with the athletics. My question is, are you prepared for parents that are against it to pull their kids out of school and homeschool? Is there going to be an option for that? Because I think it should be a personal choice as well. So I'd like you guys to think about that too, because I know, speaking for my friends and a couple other people, we're prepared to pull our kids out as early as tomorrow, depending on what you guys decide tonight. Thanks.
Elizabeth Masick.
Good evening, y'all. I don't really think COVID is the issue here in the Boone District. We have a bigger thing, and it's also one of the major reasons why I pulled my son out of school this year. He begged me not to send him to school because he was bullied, and nothing was done to protect my kid. You guys say you guys want to have masks mandated. to protect our kids, the well-being, the health. What about these other issues within the district, like bullying? My son has anxiety with kids his age. He's scared to walk into a school at this point. His grades were crappy this last year. He's flying through his schoolwork now faster than you could imagine. He's almost at a third grade level at this point.
Gabe Bowers.
Good evening. I want to echo everything that everyone else has said, opposing the mask mandate. One thing I want to say is thank you all for what you're doing. You don't have an easy task, and that doesn't go unnoticed. But at the end of the day, I feel like it should be personal choice. Like it's been said, where do we stop? Where do we end? Everyone's followed the rules for a year. We've worn masks. We've got vaccinated. So we have to make sure they all get mandated. What's that look like, or as far as the vaccine? But again, I just want to encourage the personal choice. Let the kids decide. And as our governor said, the Iowans, we will do the right thing. And again, you don't have an easy decision, but I hope you maintain the free ability to have everyone choose. Thank you.
Eddie Bacon. Dave Casati.
Hi, I'm Dave Casati, and I didn't come prepared to speak tonight, but I just want to say a few quick words. Again, like everybody has gone before me for the most part, I echo all those statements. I believe it should be a choice, not mandated. I think one of the bigger questions that not necessarily us or you guys or even Boone need to figure out is, instead of worrying about masks and different things like that, how do we build our immunity? No one's worried about that or talking about that. If we can learn and figure out a better way to build our immunity, and mask is not a good way to build your immunity. You build your immunities better, you have less likely to contract a disease of any sort. And you might still. I thought I was pretty well immune to things. I contracted COVID last year, spent a week in the hospital, I'm back at it. I wore a mask when I had to, otherwise I didn't, but so I contracted it. I have asthma, I have conditions, I probably shouldn't have made it, but I did. Maybe I'm just too stubborn. But I'm too stubborn on this too, because again, I think it's more than just a mask that we need, or it's not a mask that we need, it's more than that. It's build the immunity. So maybe take that and go above where you guys are, and let's start working on that and say, hey, what can we do to build immunity instead of what can we do to try to prevent this thing from coming in? Because it's going to come in from everywhere. You've heard about it. People that wear masks got it, and they were around people that had masks and they still got it. The masks don't work. The N95s might work a little bit, but if you read all the studies, the other masks don't work. They might slow down some of the big droplets, but they don't mask at all. Real quick, other thing, I'm on the Trinity School Board, and I know that doesn't have anything to do with the public schools, but we decided last year to not mandate masks in our school. It was total choice. We had very few students that wore them, and we had 0 cases break out and no issues. I know that's a small sample size of what you guys have here with the school, but that's kind of what I look at as a small sample size. So thank you for your time.
We have time for 3 more speakers if somebody wants to talk to the board. Please state your name and your address when you come up.
Name and address? My name is Heather Flanagan, and I live at 227 Crawford Street. Don't take my house because my opinion is placed since I just said my address all out. I'm going to read a letter I actually wrote to the board, but I got it sent out late. So, I'm here to address the board as a concerned parent that is in full support of the board reissuing a mask mandate. I'm not much of a public speaker, pardon me. I have 2 children under the age of 12 that attend the Boone School District. My daughter Isabel attends Page in preschool, and my son Liam attends Franklin and is in 3rd grade. They're right there. Lovely, wearing masks, no problems. As we all know, this is a challenging time to be a parent. There are many varying opinions about how to navigate this pandemic. My family has erred on the side of caution from the very beginning. We chose to stay home, social distance, and wear masks. This decision was not always easy. We have missed out on so much, but have felt proud that we were doing our part to slow the spread and help protect our most vulnerable. Now with the Delta variant, our children, especially those under 12, are among the most vulnerable. I teach my children to value the opinions of experts and to trust science. My children are both attending school this year, wearing masks. They have no difficulty wearing them or keeping them on. My children and myself are very disheartened that the Iowa Department of Public Health did not follow science regarding their guidance. And I'm gonna skip this part. I am also a bit disheartened that the parent survey was sent out to poll parental opinions regarding mask wearing at school. I am hoping it was only to gauge the amount of pushback the board might receive should they reissue a mask mandate. If you've been near the vicinity of a school, it is obvious the popular opinion is not to mask. My daughter is one of 4 in her class that wears a mask. My son is one of 3, with none of their teachers participating. I send my children to school every day and pray that to avoid COVID just a little longer. A vaccine for children,
Thank you very much, ma'am.
5 through 11, is on the horizon. So close, I can almost.
Next speaker.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else want to speak?
Hello, my name is Saray Majok. My address is 1233 7th Street here in Boone. I want to back up everybody for the most part that have come up and said that they're against the mandate, as I am as well. I am a registered nurse. I work at Mary Greeley Medical Center and I work in pediatrics. That's my specialty. I actually have certification in that area. I'm against the mandate for many reasons that everybody else had come up here and said. I think that it should be an individual choice and a family choice. I don't believe masks are what fully protect us. I had gotten COVID last November. I work in a hospital and I was exposed at work. I wore my mask like I was supposed to. I did the full garb because I take care of patients in isolation on a frequent basis. I did everything I was supposed to and I still got COVID. And I probably wash my hands 50 times a day, maybe more. I am not I'm anti being mandated anything. I think that people need to make their individual decisions. Being a nurse, the whole follow the science. Well, I'm well educated and well read, and I also follow my own things that I investigate. And there are plenty of physicians and nurses out there, by the way, that do not back up neither the mandate of masks or vaccines. So, and I'm one of them. And there's plenty of them out there. And I don't know, 2 of my children go to Boone High School. I am more than willing to just rip them out of school if that is something that continues to be pushed on them. They don't want it either. And I agree with I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. But I agree with what that guy said back there, that the teenager that came up and spoke, the senior, Aiden, was it? That he said, they don't care about wearing masks. I'm gonna tell you that right now. They don't. That's teenagers.
We have time for one more comment.
Is the name and address?
Yeah.
Todd Rasmussen, 215 Green Street. As a student who goes here, I just want to say that I oppose the mask mandate and think it should be personal choice and not mandated. I hope you make the right choice, and that is all.
Okay, thank you very much for the public comments. At this point in time, we will discontinue public comments and we will move on to the next item on the agenda. I have asked Deb Postonik, who is the head of public health nursing here in Boone County, to come and speak to us about the current situation in Boone County and a little bit of history of the disease process. Thank you very much. Ms. Postonik.
I'm here just to give facts. I'm not going to make a recommendation one way or another. I was just asked to present some stats and some information about COVID. I can tell you from a public health perspective, it's a highly contagious virus. Iowa Department of Public Health is still supporting the use of masks and vaccines. That's never changed. And they feel with this current Delta variant, that is true more than ever. I can tell you last year, during the school year, I didn't meet, but I had a conference call with the school nurses every single Friday, and they would tell me what was going on in the schools, and I can say that we saw the lowest rates for absences and viruses. Do I think the masks help? I do. That's just my personal opinion. That was their opinion. We're seeing a resurgence of a lot of things. Do I think it's because we've got so many people out coughing and hacking unprotected? Yes. I can tell you that our walk-in clinic is becoming overwhelmed with people that are coming in with COVID and COVID-type symptoms. We're looking at 2 to 3 hour wait times right now. Our whole health system is becoming overwhelmed with sick people. Boone County Hospital is having a very hard time transferring patients. We're getting pushback. We're being told that we need to be prepared to care for these people that need respiratory assist because they can't take them anymore. They don't have the staff to take care of patients. They don't have the beds. Boone County's got both of their high flow oxygen machines running right now. We've got one more on backup. We've got to have trained professionals to run them, and we've got 2 more on order. So, you know, when we hear about healthcare and shortages, it's here in Boone, it's here now. The gal that works at Mary Greeley, I'm sure she is experiencing shortage of staff and, you know, being stretched to the limit as well. So I just think we need to do whatever mitigation we can, whether it's at school or anywhere, to protect ourselves. I can give you a couple of statistics and numbers that I've looked up. The number of school-age children that were diagnosed with COVID last year in just a 20-day period, September 1st through the 20th, was 14. This year, it's 32. So this Delta variant, what they're saying is like tenfold as strong as what the COVID was that we saw last year. The total cases of COVID-19 for Boone County from September 1st through the 20th in 2020 was 52. As of this year, it's 146. As of this week, since we've had COVID and started keeping stats in this system we're calling DOMO through Iowa Department of Public Health, 1,777 cases just for Boone, 50036, have been documented. A month ago, that number was at 1,600, so 177 cases have been diagnosed in 1 month, just in this zip code. Our 14-day positivity rate as of Monday was 9.1%, and I looked it up yesterday, and just for Boone County, our positivity rate was 11%. Not for 14 days, but as of yesterday. I can tell you when I look out on the CDC site that I can get some stats from, we have been at a severe or significantly substantial transmission, and it's never come out of that for Boone County. So I do know the American Board of Pediatrics highly recommends using masks as a mitigation You know, they have a very strong belief in that. They don't have any political affiliations, so they're basing their information on science. I think it just looks like we got some stats from the walk-in clinic, and for 2020, the number of like pediatric age kids that we're seeing was 137 for the period of September, and the students they're seeing as of right now is 273. So what we're seeing is it's going up, and my fear is when we go into mid to late October or November, and everybody's inside, that we're just going to see a huge exacerbation of everything.
Board members, do you have any questions from Mrs. Bostonik about public health standpoint, statistics, or disease process?
Deb, thank you for coming today. I guess I had a question in regards to a couple of your stats. School last year, you mentioned there was 14 during a period of time that were diagnosed, I guess, with COVID, and this year it was 32. Is that correct?
Yep.
Of those 14 and 32, do you know how many of those were hospitalized?
I do not. I do not. Once we just get the stats on diagnosis and things, we do not get the stats on, you know, where do they follow through. So, yeah, that part of it's not given to us in a state statistical type range, or breaking it down by county or zip code.
And just the only reason I ask that is obviously there's been some asymptomatic people with this, so I just was curious on that front, so thank you.
Sure.
And then I didn't catch the last statistic, or one of your last ones. You talked about 1,700 cases, and then it was up 177. What was the time frame for that?
1 month.
1 month, thank you.
Any other questions for board members for Mrs. Bostonik? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much, Ms. Bostonik, for coming up here tonight and presenting us those statistics. We'll now move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is mask mandate for Boone Community Schools. I'm going to start with Ms. Trippa. She's got some information.
So our next item on the agenda is the Return to Learn plan, and when this all started on September 14th, I sent a message out to all of our community explaining why the board had not discussed Judge Pratt's ruling on September 13th. I had shared at that time that not only were we aware of the judge's decision, but that we were also aware that Governor Reynolds had planned to appeal the decision. I shared at that time that we needed legal clarification prior to setting a special board session. And because I communicated that to all of you, I want to share with you what we have heard from our legal counsel. Our legal counsel has since we've had the opportunity to speak with our district legal counsel regarding the temporary restraining order put in place by a federal judge on September 13th. The temporary restraining order prohibits the state of Iowa from enforcing Section 280.13, this mask mandate prohibition law passed at the end of the previous legislative session. The temporary restraining order is still in place and is anticipated to remain in place. However, it is important that we as a district remain flexible and responsive to the ever-changing legal landscape. That's the response that we had from our legal counsel. And then I wanted to be able to share with both the board and with our community some information regarding what we're seeing in the schools. I think it's fairly reflective of what Public Health shared. We as a district are experiencing higher rates of illness than we typically experience. When I speak of illness, I am not only speaking of the rate of COVID, but also the rate of other illnesses. Last year we experienced record lows in terms of the flu, RSV, and other illnesses. We're now seeing these illnesses return. In terms of COVID, we no longer have the same mechanisms at our disposal to accurately track COVID in our school setting. However, over the course of the past month, we have had more parents self-report COVID cases during this time frame than we experienced in the same time frame last year. Last year, we were able to track COVID as well as those quarantined with COVID symptoms and develop metrics to aid us in our next steps. If the same mechanisms were in place and we were able to still use those mechanisms to utilize that metric, we would be considering a hybrid model last year. However, this year is not last year. Many of the supports available last year are not available this year. We are no longer able to move off-site and back on-site without having to make up the school days. Online learning is no longer recognized by the state as counting towards school days unless the district possesses a state-approved online school. So what we as an administrative team hope we can accomplish this evening is to determine a clear and definitive roadmap of when it is appropriate to increase and decrease our mitigation strategies, specifically masking. It was mentioned during the commentary that we had asked for input as a board and as a district from our stakeholders, our parents and staff, as to how they feel about that particular mitigation strategy of masking. So we did send out a survey, and I'd like to share that at this time. Please keep in mind that it was a one-question survey that allowed for parents to provide their point of view. At that time, you did not have any of the information that you've heard tonight, nor what I just shared. So the data that we have, hopefully will be coming up. So the green represents those that responded that they would be in favor of masks. The red represents those that are not in favor. The yellow represents neutral. So when I have looked at this information, so the board knows, we as a district see neutral as being taken out because those that said neutral would be okay either way. So we were looking to see approximately how many had stated that they were for or not or against mask mandates. The employees, I'll read out the overall, so because you can't see all of the numbers, I can tell that. And our employees, those that said no was 41.1%. Those that said yes was 37.5%. Our parents, those that said no were 51.8%. Those that said yes said 36.8%. Obviously, the difference between those are the neutrals. And then when you combine staff and parents, the no's are 48.3%, yes is 37%. So we always want to, as you mentioned, when we ask for your input, we want to be able to share with you the feedback that we did receive and know that that was something that was shared with the board. So before you go ahead and discuss, I'll just reiterate what we as an administrative team hope comes out of tonight. We really would like to have a determination of a clear roadmap in and out of any kind of masking. That's what we're hoping we can have a conversation about this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rico. Board members, I'm open for discussion. Anyone want to go first? Have any questions, comments?
I'll go first, I guess. It's a difficult thing. I mean, thinking about your own family's health is one thing. Being in a position where we're talking about the health of other people's family is a position I never thought I'd be in, to be honest with you. It's not a position that I'm real comfortable with because I, like many other people, believe I know what's best for my family. I get wrapped up in my own political and personal views of this topic just like everybody else does. It was very difficult for me to re-narrow my focus and think about what our goal as a school board is. I found that was the easiest way for me to justify some of my thought process and what ultimately I think my decision will be. Really, a school board has a pretty narrow focus, right? I mean, we manage one employee, that's Julie. We manage a budget as fiscally responsible as we can, and we direct policy. We do those three things in hopes of creating an environment that provides a good education for our students. I mean, it's pretty simple. There's ancillary things that go along with that. Of course, we want to create a safe environment for all of our students. We also want to, and in some cases are legally obligated, to provide the least restricted learning environment to all of our students. So are masks helpful? You know, if I forget about all the science and the CDC and everything, and I look at our in-house numbers, wearing masks in school reduces illnesses. If you look at what's going on this year compared to last year and the year before, it seems like that's yes, in my opinion. Now, are masks necessary? That's a question I can't answer very well. You know, I don't know. I don't know if they're necessary or not, but at the end of the day, we're in a unique position because a school is not an Iowa State football game. You know, it's not a concert that you choose to go to. It's a place that kids have to go to. We don't have an option to go online. You know, half of our student population doesn't have the ability to get vaccinated. The number one reason I got vaccinated was so I could stop wearing my mask. I mean, I don't like wearing a mask, so I got a shot so I could stop wearing a mask. That being said, if we can't conduct the business of operating a school because of illness, then something has to be done. You know, and we're close to that level right now in some of our buildings where the illness is almost creating a position where we can't function properly. Is that temporary? I think so. But I also think that increased illness and COVID is going to be here for a while, probably a number of years. I think we need to figure out how we deal with it without the politics. I mean, everybody has very strong opinions of it, myself included. But if you boil it down to the goals of the school board, it becomes simpler for me. I'm not in favor of a mandate for the sake of a mandate. I think too many elected officials enjoy mandates because of the power aspect behind it. But we also need to educate students. I mean, there's negatives to wearing masks, but there's also negatives to kids not being in school. It trickles all the way down. So if there is a masking policy in place, then like someone mentioned and Julie mentioned, there needs to be a metric, a baseline, so we can tell people exactly when we're going to move to masking and when we're going to move out of masking. Because in all reality, I think that we're going to be talking about this down the road, and I'm looking at this as an illness policy instead of a COVID political discussion. So is an illness policy going to need to be discussed so that we can have a baseline, a metric of when we're going to move in and out of these things? Imposing a mandate with no end date, because that's what we're trying to tell people is best, is unacceptable. But if it's necessary for us to conduct the business of being at school, then that's something we need to be very deliberate about, and we need to be able to delineate between when we're going to do it and when we're not going to do it so that people have something to work towards. And if we do have to put the mask on, they know exactly what metric will be used to take the mask off. That's my 2 cents on it.
I can go next then. First, I want to thank everybody for coming today, expressing their opinions and thoughts and facts. As my time on the school board has become quite clear to me that we have very passionate people in our district about our school and the kids in our district. It also shows how great our teaching staff is, and our administrator cares about our district. So I thank all of you again for coming today. So obviously the results of the survey are up here on the board. Obviously you can look at it and say it was not an overwhelming support of a mask or no mask. Obviously a no mask mandate was what the overall total, if you look as a percentage, was, but it was not an overwhelming no, I do not want masks within our building. So some of you here might think, looking at that, say this is an easy decision, and I'll kind of back up what Jeremy said, it is not. We looked at multiple different things. I know myself is included, looked at different things, obviously this being one of them, the hospitalization, which I know an individual talked about, so I'm not going to hit on that again. Just kind of talking about, as we speak for our district and specifically Boone County and Boone, obviously COVID is, we do not have nearly as many positive cases as some, but one positive case is too many in regards to COVID. I'm not trying to make light of that, but we also, in reality, people are going to get it. That is part of this virus. So again, with those numbers being low in the hospitals within Boone and Boone County, that kind of helped weigh some of my decision as well tonight. I do want to talk a little on masking in general. Looking up some stuff on the American Academy of Pediatrics, they talk about during COVID-19 pandemic, effective infection prevention and control requires the correct and consistent use of well-fitting face masks. I kind of had to dig into what is a well-fitting face mask, and then they take you to the CDC to discuss that. They classify a well-fitting mask as a mask with a nose wire or a mask fitter or brace over a disposable mask or cloth. So it does not have air leaking around the edges of the mask. And I don't believe many of the masks that our students are wearing fall into that category, I guess, as far as that goes. It also talked on the CDC's website of just different gaps, and then when do they become not as effective is when they get wet and dirty. And I will say, as a parent for 2 young kids, we sent multiple masks with our kids in their backpack, but they came home every single day with soaking wet masks. So did they stop some things? They absolutely did, but they were not doing what they need to do to stop COVID-19. As I compile all this stuff together, looking at the survey results that came back, just know the decision that we make tonight is not easy. I will continue to support the district and this entire board, regardless of how the vote goes tonight. And I would ask that all of you as well in here, and all of the people listening as well, follow what happens here and support it. But I am on that standpoint, if we do a mask, and that is an if, we need to have metrics in place. Using a feeling necessarily is not something we need to go by. We need to go by the statistics. So. Again, I want to thank all the parents for coming and the input of everybody that we've had. Again, this is not an easy decision.
I'll go. I'm Pam Nystrom. I wear a mask almost all the time because I live with an individual who has some very significant serious health problems. I'm going to piggyback on what Jeremy said. When we got our vaccinations, we were thrilled because we didn't have to wear that mask anymore. And I can remember kind of joking around at the first board meeting I got to go to and not be masked. It was great. And then the illness rose again, and we have to be very careful. My family's very careful with my husband's health. That's my personal story. I don't think we know everyone's personal story. And so it becomes very hard to have one answer that meets the needs of everyone. But I will say that as an educator, things that do concern me are when your attendance rate drops too far. And your kids, if kids are out with COVID for 10 days and we don't have the infrastructure, basically, that we had last year, they can't always go online and get everything. They can get some things. That's one thing. Do we have policies in place for when kids come back after being gone for 2 weeks? Or if they get really sick, 4 weeks or longer? What is a bigger concern to me as an educator is when I have to look at the numbers of staff that are absent. What if we don't have enough teachers in place? And then we talk about compromised educational quality. So there are a lot of considerations. I believe that the survey information was very interesting. I watched the pep rally last Friday online, and it certainly didn't reflect this. I think I could see about 10 masks in the gymnasium. And so I really believe that if you're very concerned about your child's welfare, I think parents need to step up maybe and have their kids wear masks if they believe that that's going to help. Have their kids vaccinated. I know I've got pictures of my grandkids who were in their teens getting their shots at the Hy-Vee. You know, they were very, very glad. So if we're going to do mitigation strategies, I agree with what I've heard. We need to have timelines. We need to look at it carefully. When do we hit critical mass and we really are in trouble? Those are questions that I have. And I think they are legitimate questions. They go beyond politics. They go beyond whether you believe in the science or you don't. I'm concerned about children. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have 10 kids in my family that go to the Boone schools. I do thank you for coming, and I do thank you for your parental interest. All the parents that responded, I'm glad that they did. And I will pass the gauntlet.
Hi, I'm Pat Teben. I would reiterate that this is one of the hardest decisions. 2 years, you're sick, 18 months, whatever it is, and who would have ever thought we would have to go through something like this? It's unbelievable. I want to thank all of you again for coming tonight. I appreciate all of your comments and appreciate every single thing you've had to say. I am retired from the Department of Ed, so I have an educational background, and so my thoughts are always first with faculty and students. Always first with faculty and students as to what's going on, and staff, obviously. Faculty, staff, and students. So this is not going to be an easy decision in any way, shape, or form. I do think that at the high school level, all the students at the high school level have had the opportunity to get a vaccine. And if they have chosen not to, they can still get one at any time that they would like. You walk into Hy-Vee and get a vaccine. So my personal opinion is that if we make a decision tonight for masking, that the high schools should not be included in that because they can get those vaccines. I have read all the studies. I understand where you're all coming from. I understand where everybody's coming from on both sides of the issue. And again, this is a very, very difficult position, but I will make that comment, but I don't think we need to extend it to the high school level.
Anyone else have anything to say? Mr. Shelton.
I do want to put one more comment out there, I guess, just before we decide on the situation stuff here. But I do want to make sure before anything happens that we look at the proven statistics and know that the not wearing masks in our district are the causing fact of COVID increases within Boone County. And I don't think we have those statistics to prove that at this point, that our district is specifically causing that. And if we do, I guess I'd be willing to have somebody present those, but I don't feel we have statistics to prove that our district is what's causing the increase.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Well, I guess I'm the last one to comment. As most of you know, I'm also one of the family physicians here in the community. And as chairman of the Board of Health, I've been up to my neck in this literature for the last 18 months' time. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad come out. I have mixed emotions on this in a way. Yeah, I don't want to have masks. I have to wear one of these every day, folks. From the time I walk in the building till I leave, except for when I'm standing in my office by myself doing paperwork. It's tough. Fortunately, vaccine is coming. The vaccine for pediatrics, age 5 through 16, Pfizer is coming 5 through 11, and Moderna is coming 5 through 18. Should be approved by the FDA in the next month from all the literature that is coming out behind the scenes that I'm seeing. We wear masks, yes, to protect ourselves some, but probably more importantly to protect others from us if we happen to have a case of COVID and we are an asymptomatic carrier and spreading it. Used to be with the original COVID, vaccine, you might get sick, but you weren't sick enough to the point that you were spreading the virus in the air particles every time you took a breath. Delta has changed that. Delta is 1,000 times more virulent, and so people are putting it out in the press, so that's why they went back to the masking. Someone mentioned earlier that I had a family member who did catch COVID, even though she had been vaccinated, and the people she was with that day had been vaccinated. Yes, that's true. It's also true that she did not require hospitalization because she had that vaccine. Vaccines prevent serious illness. It's a tough decision. Our ICUs are overflowing. We have 2 patients on airflow, or high pressure oxygen here at the hospital. Both of them are educators in other school districts in the county. Got to protect everyone, including our teachers, as I was saying before. We're not going to have people to be able to teach our kids. I'm reminded that when I sit here on the board, I have to protect all kids, including those kids who can't speak for themselves or protect themselves. You put your mask on to protect your neighbor. We all put our mask on to protect your neighbor. It was mentioned about McFarland. The head pediatrician McFarland is strongly in favor of mandatory masking. He is chairman of the Story County Board of Health, and I've had numerous conversations with him. So, that being said, I'll entertain any other thoughts or discussion. I should preface this by saying that at 2:30 this afternoon, we intentionally delayed this meeting for 10 days' time to get through the legal aspect, and my biggest concern was, are we doing this in vain because 10 days later, the courts are going to rule the other way. And we spoke with our attorney Monday afternoon, and she said, no, courts are not going to rule the other way, so we can do something so we don't have to go back and forth. 2:30 this afternoon, I got a phone call. Mr. Tripp got a phone call from our attorney. That may change in the next few days, as there may or may not be something growing in the legislature or in the court system. Talk about science changing, court system changed too. And so this goes back and forth from a legal aspect. I would hope that if we had put a mask in effect, we would drop that deadline at the end of the first semester. Readdress it then, and hopefully being able to readdress it sooner. With COVID rates going down, vaccines being present, CDC and AAP saying masks are no longer necessary. They weren't necessary for a while, and then things got worse. So hopefully that would change again. That being said, is there anyone else like to make comments or any motions?
Can I ask a question from the admin team? So some questions that we've had from staff before we go any further, just see if we can have further clarity with regard to masking. Last year, we were able to utilize our face shields so that we could do some of the phonetic work and be able to articulate well on the part of staff. That's something that so face shields, face masks, could we define what that would be if that were to be the case so that we can be clear on what that is?
According to American Academy of Pediatric recommendations, they do concur that at times face shields and clear plastic masks are indicated and are needed when dealing with phonics. Also, students who have problems hearing or speech difficulties that need to be looking at the lips of the teachers for pronunciation. That is agreeable alternative in those situations.
I think that just magnifies the need to be creative and think outside the box about what we can do for kids and what we can do for families. And how do we accommodate? I know that I'll do a shout out to Mr. Johnson, who accommodates my family. And I would encourage, us to look at things and how we can help and what we can do. Like I said, I think we need some strategies for the kids that miss, And I think we need strategies for, the cut points, and we need to look at that kind of information. And how we, and basically, how we as educators can help. And it's very difficult, We get to chat like this in public. We never get to chat like this in private very often, because it's a personnel issue or something that is okayed by the state laws. We need to keep talking. I think we need to keep talking.
So as a follow-up to that with students and face shields, we also had some students last year due to different needs also utilize face shields. So I just want to make clear that we're talking about students and staff with regard to it being okay with the shield. Because we were able to do that last year.
There is no motion on the floor at this time, but I'm speaking in generalizations from the AAP recommendations that are out there, and they would say that those variations would be acceptable in unique situations.
I would like to ask, and I don't remember off the top of my head, so I apologize, but Mitch or Julie, can you, do you have an old document showing what our metrics were last year, just out of curiosity? Is that something you could pull up? Just so I can know percentages wise, before anything is decided here, we could see.
Just the metric picture
Just the
that we
metric
used?
picture, yeah.
Yeah, just give me a moment.
Sorry for putting you on the spot on that.
So this is the metric model that we used last year. So the thing to keep in mind, though, with this metric system that we used last year is we had a lot of mechanisms in place that allowed us to do this, that we do not currently have. So we were able to accurately account for the COVID cases, the symptoms, the quarantining, all of that. So that is what we utilized last year. But I just want to be very clear that the mechanisms that we were able to utilize don't exist for us right now. So that's my concern with just being able to go straight back to this, is we don't have a way to accurately reflect that information. There's not a mechanism in place right now.
Thank you. It was more for if we do decide to make a motion. I was curious because it was discussed when we would go back. So I just wanted to at least to have a comparison for everybody to see the percentages last year.
And I would agree, and that is something that we, as a district, are very much interested in. It is a very definitive roadmap in and out of any mitigation strategies.
A lot of these numbers we do not have available because the state does not make them available to the district or for publication.
When we looked at this last year and we looked at the percentages, that was our county positivity rate. Is that true, or was that our absentee rate, Julie?
On the top, you'll see county percent positivity rate. And then along the side, going down, that was within our on-site
Okay.
data.
I want to make sure.
So it was a combination of the two. It was not reliant solely on our county unless we were to have reached a certain percentage.
Yeah.
So that's why we had both.
Yeah, and we can't go to an online model right now. That's part of, how we can't help. But when we look at percentages at the county level, and they're varying day by day, we're at 11.7 or something,
We don't have anything from the district that we can say for sure exactly what our percentage is within the district. I think I heard our public health officials say that today's was 11%. I think when I looked yesterday, it was a 9% 2-week model, but so you can kind of see where it would have been last year.
Again, this is the hardest decision any of us have ever had to make. And I will accept any friendly amendments, but I will move that we go to mandated mass pre-K-8 starting Monday, ending either upon legal requirements that change, mass or vaccines that come into place, and we can show a good vaccine rate, or the end of the semester, whichever comes first.
There is a motion on the floor at this time to go to mandatory masking at pre-K-8 level as of this coming Monday. Until either legal or immunization updates, etc., to be able to terminate sooner, or this would die as of the end of the first semester. Is there a second to the motion first?
I'll second with discussion.
The motion has been seconded by Dr. Nystrom. We will now have further discussion on the motion.
Our decision to have a partial mask requirement is pretty much based, I think, on accessibility to vaccines and what we're seeing very distinctly at the high school in the graphs. My question and discussion point would be, when do we know if this is going to be an agreeable legal avenue? Is masking going to be enough? Is it? There are two sides to that coin, and accessibility and then people that really are opposed to their kids wearing masks. Any more discussion?
I guess my discussion in regards to that is, I know last year feedback was not splitting up buildings and age groups on that as far as it. I don't know, it's a fluid situation, I get that, things change. I would also ask, as far as administrators or anybody in that front, how does that fall for if they go in a different building? Do they get to wear a mask for a part of a day and not part of a day? I feel like this opens lots of questions in regards to where we're going to fall if we just do K through 8.
Mr. Tripa, any thoughts as far as enforcement, as far as, I guess it would be, I think what you're saying is, what about an 8th grade student or a 7th grade student who has to do activities in the high school, that type of thing?
So what I'm hearing, as far as the motion on the floor, is that it's K-8, and the reasoning is because of the ability to vaccinate. If you're asking about activities at the high school, my thought process, and this is just a thought process based on what just happened, is that if I'm hearing you correctly, then it's a choice to go to those activities, and school's not a choice. So I would not envision that being like, if they're masking in the K-8 buildings and they go to a high school activity, is that what you're asking?
Would they have to wear a mask? Is it based on
So that's a question for you as a board, but my first reaction is that you're choosing to attend an activity, and then we aren't, I'm hearing you say it's for the school day. And so one of the questions I have with this motion is, what about 7, 8 activities and basketball or volleyball or whatever might be taking place? Where does that fall in this motion? That's a question I have, because our 7th and 8th graders are of different ages than our 5th and 6th graders.
Well, Julie, you're reading my mind, because that's what I'm thinking. Where does 7th and 8th grade fall in this? Technically, 7th and 8th graders would have accessibility to the vaccine. And they are in organized sports, and they choose to do that. I don't think there's any way to reset the clock. I mean, we can't go back to August 23rd. Those kids haven't been masking to any great degree, as far as I can tell, at the middle school. Scott, I don't want to put you on the spot, but did I say something accurately? Okay, that was my impression. That
Again, just my opinion here is that 5 through 8 are in the one building, and you don't want to do half a building and not do the other half. I mean, you have to do the whole building. And again, the 5th and 6th graders, a lot of them are not of the age where they can get the vaccine. So we have to make sure that the whole building then is covered. Regarding the sports for the 7th and 8th graders, again, they have the opportunity in 7th and 8th to get the vaccines. So I guess I would personally not require a mask mandate for those sports. But in the classroom activities, when they're around the 5th graders and the 6th graders, I don't know.
You're creating a nightmare for our students and for...
Sir, I'm sorry. We ask that there be no comments. Sir, I ask... Please step out of the room, sir. Officers. I'm sorry, there's no comments from the audience at this time. I'm sorry. Board members.
If you do one, you do them all.
Questions, comments from board members yet? Hearing no further comments from board members, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Elfon.
No.
Nystrom.
Yes.
Pritchard.
Just one clarifying comment. My no vote is based solely on the fact that I strongly believe it should be based on a metric. So no for me.
Tebow.
Yes.
Melhouse.
This is a tough decision. There's no winners here tonight. We're gonna have people, as the poll showed earlier, we're gonna put people upset no matter how we vote. At this time, I'm reminded of a movie, Few Good Men, where at the end, the Marines said, we're here to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And therefore, I'm going to have to vote yes to protect all the kids in the district.
You said all kids. What's that mean? You said all kids.
All the kids in the K through 8. Are there any further items of discussion tonight? Hearing no further items, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.